I got your choppers! Take him off me. Look at me bloody knees. Hit the deck twice.
Hello and welcome to the final episode of the Tasmania trip. For our last shoot, Andrew and I decided to take a bit of a risk. We're probably pumped up a little bit from getting such nice light earlier that morning at the Sentinel Range. So we thought we'd try and find a unique perspective of the Mount Field Range, which we could actually see from the Sentinel Range that morning had a nice light dusting of snow across the top. We were going to be shooting it when the sun was setting, so we thought we might try and shoot the range from the west side. The issue was trying to find a spot that gave us a clear view of the range in an area that we weren't too familiar with and didn't have a lot of roads. So there were lots of driving, stopping, asking for help from the locals and checking up on Google Maps.
Yeah, well, you can't get on there. The Greenies burnt the bridge down and stopped them going. All right.
Good on you, mate.
Have a good day.
Yeah, you too. See you later.
We eventually found a road that looked really promising, but it was closed to vehicles, so we had no choice but to hike up as far as we could. After nearly getting the van bogged, we quickly got the drone up to see what the view might look like. We packed our bags and off we set. It's a bit of a challenge to demonstrate in these videos just how steep some of the hills are. So I thought I'd start the vlog by walking up the steepest part. Seemed like a good idea at the time, but in the end there was just a lot of huffing and puffing. But bear with me though, the track does flatten out, giving me a chance to catch my breath. This is the bit of landscape photography which I don't normally show you. The bit that counts. It's doing whatever you can to get to the location. We've left Sentinel Range after this morning's beautiful light, and we've driven down to Mount Fields, which is about an hour closer to Hobart. We've driven into some forest logging area, and on Google Maps, on the topographical map, we found this track that takes us up this hill west of the Mount Fields Range. And we're hoping that it'll give us a nice vantage point. What we can see on the maps is that we'll be looking out across the valley to the Mount Fields Range, which we've seen on our drive up here, has a dusting of snow across the top. So you should be asking yourself, why are we walking? Well, we drove in as far as we possibly could, and there's a gate across where this side road, side track starts. So we've parked the van down there. We've packed all the camera gear in our bags. And now Andrew and I are making our way up this hill. It's just started to flatten off. You might be able to tell from my breathing. But it's not the camera settings. It's not even trying to catch the right light that is the difficult bit. And composition can always be worked on. But it's dedication, perseverance, just working on being mentally strong about getting to a location. And that might be just getting up early in the morning before work, getting out to a location before the sun rises, or in this case, climbing a big hill to get to the right spot. Whether we get to the top or not really depends on whether we get to a spot where there's a little bit of a clearing and we can get a pretty good vantage point on Mount Fields. The clouds are looking pretty promising, I must admit. And this is where the sun is, and I don't know whether you can make out that there's just the smallest little crack in between those clouds where a little bit of light from the sun will come through. What we want to be able to achieve is some light on the mountains which are just behind me. So that is what we are trying to photograph. That is the Mount Fields ranges. I'm going to put the camera down, I'm going to keep walking. But when I get there, I'll let you know. What's the view like? Bring your machete. Ooh, that's not too bad.
You're at the top of the dump now.
It's a nice little composition with that. If you could just get further forward. Oh, this is nice. This is perfect. This is just what we're after. So this is what it's all about. We've finally settled on a location. We walked up a little bit further and we could see that the path was going to continue on around this hill, and we didn't want to take too long to get to a spot before the light came out, and the sun is just starting to now dip below the main part of the cloud, and there's several layers of thinning cloud that the sun is going to pass by, and as it does that, and it's already done it once, across the range, which is behind me here, we're having patches of light and shadow being cast across the valley and across these quite impressive looking mountains and mountain range. So we've done the hard work, we've done the research during the day, we've worked out that this was going to be a pretty good location. We weren't 100% sure how we were going to get there, but we looked up some tracks and we got here in time for the light, and I suppose that's what good planning is all about, to just give yourself just that little bit of time to be able to compose or be able to come into a situation reasonably calm. It's always a little bit of a panic when the light is on. When we first got to this spot, which is a dozer push from when they created the track, and it's created a nice little flat platform for us to stand on and the tripods to sit here. when we got here, the first of the light was cast across this front mountain, and the valleys behind it were in shadow, and so that contrast of light and shadow, plus there's a lot of contrast in texture. You've got some really nice veins of green forest, and then you've got some older forest behind it. You've also got to the left hand side some reforested area, which is probably going to be out of the frame for me, but it's just sensational up here, and a privilege to be here. I'm so glad that we did the hard work to get up here. The best of the light has gone. You see behind me that the sun hasn't actually set, but it's gone behind a quite thick band of cloud. It's a common theme in the last couple of days. We've had some pretty good light. We have it quite early. I think it's just past 4 o'clock. I don't think the sun was meant to set for another hour, but as far as good light is concerned, it has been blocked by that thick band of cloud. What a sensational day. We woke up early this morning and we're witness to some beautiful light, and then with a bit of research, a bit of effort, we've found what we think is actually quite a unique location for Tasmania. These are well-known mountain ranges, but to capture an image like we have, or a set of images like we have, from this perspective, I think is relatively unique anyway, and it's because we just put in that bit of effort. One of the reasons why we think that this perspective of the Mountfield Ranges is quite unique is that while the ranges are quite popular, access is from the east and we're actually from the west. And the reason why we've come to the west side is because we believe that we were going to catch the best of the light as the sun set. I finished things off by putting the 24 to 70mm lens on, and got a few more intimate or abstract type images of the front of the range, and then finally I decided to do a pano of the entire vista. So I did that on, I'll let you know, I was actually at 70mm. So with the 24 to 70 I was at 70mm. I didn't have any polarizers or filters on for this. I actually bracketed each of the sets of images. So I was somewhere between 1/8 of a second and a 60th of a second. And that's simply because the vast difference between the light in the sky and the light in the foreground. I really couldn't do it with filters, because as you're turning around for the pano, the filter doesn't necessarily match up, and you can sometimes get quite weird effects in your final image. So I didn't put a filter on and just bracketed that. A set of shots, I don't know how many, I'd say around about 8 to 10, but when I put the image up, I'll let you know how many images I had to merge together in that pano, and I'll be just doing it in Lightroom. I took 9 separate exposures for each part of the pano, from 1/8 of a second to 1/50th of a second. To get the full dynamic range, I only needed 3 of the shots, each a stop apart, 1/8, 1/15th and 1/30th. But it was handy to have the other exposures just in case. I repeated this 12 times and stitched all the shots together in Lightroom. With all the information in a much bigger file, all I needed to do was bring up the highlights, bring down the exposure in the sky and warm the image just a little. What I like about this shot is even though it's a panorama, there's still some foreground interest with the lights hitting the leaves in the trees closest to the camera. This frames the valley and the ranges behind quite nicely. In the end, it was quite a wide pano, but it really needed to be given the scene. I tried a 3:1 crop with a slightly different edit, and in my opinion, it just wasn't quite as good. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video or any of the images that I took, please give the video a like down below. It really does help. If this is the first time to my channel, check out some of my other landscape adventures and please consider subscribing. If you do subscribe, make sure you hit the notification bell so you are notified when I upload my next video. But until next time, thanks very much for watching.